What can be said for electing Barack Hussein Obama as America's first black president? Never mind that this wet behind the ears politician and community organizer only had the experience of shaking down banks and stirring up perceived grievances in Chicago. This junior state senator and U.S. senator for a mere 304 days was groomed to the public through a top-notch marketing plan. Propaganda pushed as history-making hope and change, responsible for placing this unvetted and poser of a politician in a position where giants of statesmanship and world-changing, extraordinary leadership have stood. Grieving to be heard proles equated a significant act of American history with the automatic qualifications to lead despite enormous deficits in actual experience. What was promised as a healer, a mender, and a rebuilder has turned out to be a petty divider, constantly marketing resentment and perceived injustices to inflame the passions of jealousy and economically devastating entitlement. And this is where it started to get even uglier. The wealthy were demonized for working hard, building businesses, and enjoying the blessings of abundance, while those less fortunate and less willing to put out the effort to earn the abundance themselves were essentially coached to start demanding more money from the pockets of those who ought to pay their fair share. Barack Hussein Obama, the meticulously marketed great black healer, has spent enormous sums of taxpayer money touring the country lambasting achievement, using our own funds against us, while turning the middle class into the resentment class. Working hard for success has gone out the window, while working hard and protesting to demand of government that they skim more off the top of someone else's success, that has become vogue. Obviously, this cannot and will never contribute to the success of the country, but will instead grow an army of fanatics for government control, expansion, and as the ultimate provider. Totalitarian governments, they build this willing devotion so they can eventually take rights away from one class and selectively give them to another so as to keep themselves in power. Certainly outrage would have been the fallout if one day, out of the blue, jackbooted Nazi thugs would have just started to beat Jews senseless out in the streets. However, to gain control, the Nazi regime denigrated Jews, falsely labeling them as inferior money grubbers, then labeling them with blue and gold stars, removing any weapons for them to be able to defend themselves, and then and only then could they beat them senseless in the streets, smash their store windows in broad daylight, and take their property without objection from a majority of German citizens. This slow process has been going on for some time in the United States as white people, police officers, Christians, pro-lifers, business owners, the wealthy, Tea Party members, and conservative politicians are being labeled as enemies by the liberal elite, political and media pundit class. Political correctness rears its ugly head from time to time whenever an individual perceived to be in one of these groups acts or says something out of line within the context of established PC free speech criteria. Most of the time, that criteria isn't even well defined. But if your speech or actions are perceived to be an opportunist moment by the liberal, progressive media, you become the scapegoat for the advancement of the agenda of the elite. All this will eventually have dangerous consequences, continuing to pit one group against another, while making enemies where there really aren't any. And imagine, much of this is brought to you by the great black healer, elected not because of character and virtue, but because masterful marketers pressured millions into thinking that what we needed to choose for America to be great again was a color instead of a president.